If you are not a complete Linux beginner, then you probably already know that you can run many Windows applications using Wine. Wine is a tool or a compatibility layer that essentially fools an application into thinking that it is running on Windows, and it is really neat. So you can use it to run Winbox on Linux, and in this video I will go over some tips on doing this correctly. Right off the bat, I will give you the most basic instructions to run it, and I will get into details afterwards. First, you want to download the very same Windows version of Winbox. Next, you want to install Wine. For the apt package manager, that will be sudo apt install wine. Then you can launch Winbox with the command Wine Winbox. And that is the very minimum that you need to do. But at this point, you will only be able to connect to devices on your existing network or devices that have a DHCP server running and will therefore hand out an IP address to your network interface. In other words, connections using Mac are useless at this point because they will only work if you could already connect using IP. Now in this case, I have two interfaces, and I have plugged in a device with no configuration into an interface with IP addressing disabled. While it is possible that Winbox will receive an MNDP packet at some point, it will not be possible to connect using the MAC address. This is because the outgoing layer 2 frames are being routed based on the routing table, which is updated automatically. When you add a static IP, you also get a static route. And if you receive an IP through DHCP, you will get both a static and default route added. So in this case, since there is no IP on the ENP8S0 interface, the broadcast frames that should be sent through this interface will only end up in the other one, ENP2S0, and we can verify that with Wireshark. The solution is to fix the routes. You could configure a default route pointing to a physical interface, but I will break the other default routes if you have any. So the best option, I think, is to simply have IP configured for the interface that we want to use to access configuration-less devices with Winbox. It doesn't really matter what address and network you set up. You could pick any IP address from the local IP address range, but personally I usually just use something from the MikroTik default configuration range. Interesting side note, it seems that in Windows it is not possible to have a network interface without an IP. When an interface is left to automatic IP address configuration, it will get an address assigned from the link local range until a DHCP server assigns a new address. Perhaps that explains why Winbox on Linux doesn't work exactly the same as on Windows, but don't quote me on that. Anyhow, now we can access devices both using IP and MAC addresses, but we launched it from the terminal. It would be much neater if we just had a shortcut on the desktop. So let me show you how to do that. First, move the Winbox executable to some more appropriate location than the downloads folder and get an icon file for Winbox. Now we do not publish this file ourselves, but you could make your own or just use some icon from the internet. Then you can create a desktop shortcut using the text editor. You need to first call the XDG open, which can open files using user-specified programs, and then pass the following parameters. Name will be the display name on the desktop. Execline simply executes a shell command to launch Winbox. Make sure you use the correct username, mine is always boxes in this case. Then the icon points to the icon file. And finally, we put terminal equals false and type equals application. Save this file as winbox.desktop and then right-click your new shortcut and select Allow Launching. And now you have a convenient way to launch Winbox. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more useful MikroTik content.